our book was Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And it starts out with like a journalist from New York, I think, and he visits Savannah, Georgia to write his book. And he interviews the people in the community to write about them in the book. And along the way he learns about a lot of different religions and groups in the Savannah community. And during his stay in Savannah, a crime is committed, and by that time in the book, the narrator is like fully committed on the trial. So he doesn't, like, that's all we hear about. So eventually we learn the truth.
Characters, the narrator, we didn't learn his name in the actual book, but in the movie that we saw, his name was Kelso. He was the journalist from New York. He came down to write a book on the life in Savannah, and he learned a lot about the people down there. Jim Williams, he was the really rich guy that had the garden and that big house. Everybody loved him. He hired Danny Hansford to work at the mansion, and he was accused of getting committed for a crime. Chevleys. She is actually a dude. She is pretty much a stripper.
Drag queen.
Yeah. She gets the narrator to drive her around most places and stuff. She's a really weird character. The book wanted to show us like what people down there were actually like back in the day. There was a lot of these people around. We met different people like her.
When is back in the day? Can you define that more clearly? What's the time period we're talking about?
19 something.
Yeah, it was in the mid-1900s, like, I think it was around the 50s or something. There were a few dates, there weren't a lot of dates in the book.
Danny Hansford, he works for Jim Williams. Danny's always getting into trouble. He gets put in jail like almost every single night. He's involved with the crime of Jim Williams, and he just messes with the house and stuff. He's not really committed with Jim Williams very much, and he just goes and yells at him a lot. And then he calls him and says he's sorry and stuff, and asks him to come pick him up from jail most of the time.
Okay, we have vocab words. Testimony, a formal written or spoken statement. That came in when the trials of John Williams being accused for his crime came in. There was a lot of court vocabulary in there. There was also litigators, the process of taking legal action, again from the court scene. Fabricate is a jeweled egg. Jim Williams also was very collectible. He collected a lot of things from different places, and he liked the eggs. Nouveau riche is French for new money. This book had kind of the Gadsby theme of new money versus old money in the Savannah community. Who's from the new money? Jim was from the new money, right? Yeah, Jim was from the new money. A scimitar, a short sword with a curved blade with broad ends at the point. It's like the swords from Aladdin. That's a better picture for you guys. And again, that was another thing that Jim collected. He had them hanging all over his walls, along with guns and other things. Parterre, a level space in a garden or yard. It was part of Jim's garden in the back. So the big ideas. My question was, explain the connection between Williams and Danny and what the population of Savannah think of their relationship. So like when the trial started, there was a lot of talk about Williams and Danny, and a lot of them thought that they were like together, like in a relationship. And I think that comes in with like what Chablis was and stuff. Like a lot of that community was talking about it. So they were like the big talk of the town for a while.
Mine was, what did Williams ask
Minerva?
Minerva to do for him? That's her. She's really crazy. She like says she can talk to like the ghosts and stuff, the spirits. And then they went to the graveyard, and then he asked her to help him with the trial so he doesn't get accused of that. And she tried to like tell the people to help him through it and stuff, to let him loose and not go to jail.
Okay, and mine was, what was Minerva's idea of how Williams died? Okay, I can't really answer this without giving a lot of the book away.
You're gonna have to.
Okay, yeah. So, Williams died at the end of the book, and he was the one who committed the crime of killing Danny Hansford. And at the end of the book, he dies in the spot where he shot Danny Hansford, apparently. And so, because Danny was still playing tricks with Minerva and wasn't really cooperating with how she wanted him to, she believed that it was actually Danny got his revenge on Williams by killing him.
Okay, stay there for a second. So this first one, Williams and Danny, and you said the population thinks they're part of that group. First of all,
Well, like-
can we clarify that,
No.
please?
Well,
What do you mean by that
I mean,
group?
like, okay, so, like, they thought that they were, like, gay, like,
Okay.
together. So, I don't know.
So how did Savannah view the homosexual community within their city? Based on the characters you've read, how did they view that community?
I think that, like, most of them were okay with it because that was just, like, what happened around there. Like, a lot of people were a part of that community, so I don't think it was, like, they didn't think it was that big of a deal, but they thought that, like, Danny was gonna tell everybody about Williams and them together. So that's why they thought Williams committed the crime.
So when you have characters in this text who talk about this group of people, the homosexual community in Savannah in this time period, are they kind of hush-hush about it? Do they talk about it openly? Do they only talk about it with certain people in certain situations?
I think that everybody was kind of just, like, talking about it like, they were open about it.
Okay. And that character with Danny, so they suspect he's in a relationship with Williams, but didn't they suspect he was in relationships with other people too?
With other women, like,
Okay.
a lot of women.
Okay.
A lot.
So he was kind of getting used by multiple people. Though, what did Williams ask Minerva to do for him? Well, you answered it, but what's the real big idea there? What's the big theme with Minerva?
Well, I don't really know. She's just like one of those, like a fortune teller kind of thing. And then she can talk to like spirits and stuff. So he was trying to ask her to like tell the spirits or something to let him off of the case.
So what does that reveal about the people in Savannah and their beliefs? What would you consider that?
They believe in witchcraft and, like, other religions like that.
Okay, so
Still an open community with, like, being fine with the homosexuals and being fine with witchcraft.
Okay. So we have witchcraft, we have voodoo, we have a lot of superstitions going on, we have acceptance of different things. I liked how you said open community, because that's kind of your idea, and that's your big idea. Your question there, because these are concrete questions, these are surface level questions, ladies. Your big idea is what's really behind these things. Well, we have a theme of, we have a community which in most parts of the country you wouldn't have ever discussed. Okay? You have superstitions, you have different religions being discussed. Well, that's revealing something about that community as well. You have a lot of people speculating in this third one that maybe this happened, maybe this happened, maybe this happened. So people don't necessarily trust the facts. They're very much into the city rumor mill and talking about things, but not necessarily talking about them in public. Those are your three big ideas. So we need to go a little bit deeper than these questions, because these questions can only be answered by people who've read it. But the big ideas can be understood by people who have yet to read it. Okay, do you see the difference there? Okay, keep going.
Okay, so the critical responses. The first one, it was hard to find ones that weren't actually from like a person and not just like an actual like source. So according to Independence, the author thinks that everyone the narrator meets is either kooky or spooky. The author from Independence said that the book brought out the weirdness in Savannah.
Okay, so do you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Explain.
Cookie is like, there was a guy in the book who was super kooky. He had a bottle of poison and he just kept threatening to pour it in the water supply of Savannah. That's the whole kooky, like, everyone can do what they want and it's still kind of accepted, no one's gonna really stop you. And then the spooky is like Minerva doing these witchcraft spells and everyone's like, yeah, hey Minerva, I need help, I need $10. You wanna ask a ghost for it? Or there was a lot of gambling in it and people went to Minerva to find the numbers they wanted to gamble to.
So did it show Savannah's weirdness?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like a typical community, it's very open again.
Do you think that it was weird in that time period, but maybe not so weird anymore?
Yeah, probably. Like that was probably one of like few communities that actually believed in all that stuff.
Okay.
But now it's like, yeah, that happened. It's okay. The second one was Timothy stated that one of the arguments, neither the victim or the killer, but it's Savannah itself. He said that that is a very good way to show true life crime story. So, I mean, I think I kind of agree with that because it was a true life crime story and like these things actually do happen.
And that brings up a good point, because your story is nonfiction, just like everybody else's in this class. But did it feel nonfiction?
No, a lot of that I thought was made up. Like,
Yeah. It was
Those
again, going back
characters
to the
were-
kooky and spooky, like, you wouldn't think that would be titled for a nonfiction book, but it is.
You don't see many people like cross-dressers or anything.
Super open, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that, and you live in small town America.
Yeah, that's true.
So, who would you recommend read or do not read this book, and why?
Adults read it, not
yeah,
kids.
I don't. Yeah, it's kind of inappropriate at
A
times.
little.
Yeah, whenever Shablice is talking, it's you can expect the worst.
So Chablis is an
Chablis
interesting
or Danny.
character.
Yeah, or Danny.
So even though it has some shocking scenes like that, are they in there to surprise you, or are they in there to reveal something?
I think reveal something like, I don't know, like reality, like that's what actually happens.
It was also to grab your attention and kind of hold a little more in the book, because there were times when the book would just talk about the architecture of Savannah and it got really boring. Then all of a sudden, like, Chablis showed up and it was super good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were Williams and Danny actually gay?
It never like
Never
told
said.
us that's like the talk of the town, but I don't think Williams actually committed the crime. Like I think he was
It was a
let
s-
off because he died in his house at the end of the book. So
I believe it was his self-defense.
Yeah.
So you'll have to read it and find out all these little tidbits. What's the little cartoon? We can't see it very clearly.
I was just talking about the book critics and how they're so mean.
does it say?
Yeah, we can't read it.
The
I can't
end
will
time.
Time for bed.
Time for want. No, that says dad. Want. Are you writing?
yes, it's
What are you
A
writing?
negative book review. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so he's reading a bedtime story. The kid's writing a book.
So were you satisfied with the ending? Was it what you expected?
No, well, I mean, I think like the last chapter was good.
Yeah.
But like after there was like a second half in the book, I did not like that. It was boring. It was
Yeah, it
all
was
about
really
the
boring.
trial.
Okay.
They could have cut it a little shorter.
So people who like to read about interesting trials might like this
Yeah.
one, okay? Or crime readers.
It was don't really expect an answer to everything when you read the book. I don't think it doesn't really kind of leaves it up to you, even though it's nonfiction.
Yeah, frustrating, isn't it?
It is.
Good. Any other questions for this group? Okay, give them a hand.